Got it. That's very helpful to know. I guess I wanted to get your perspectives on, does your center or any of the centers that you've been involved with had buy and bill products?
I'm sorry, I missed the end of that. Had what?
Oh, ever had buy and bill contracts with pharmaceutical companies?
Well, there's a lot of Those negotiations are generally, I'm trying to think, at the level of the state for all the patients of a particular class, if it's Medicaid or Medicare. There's very little. We'll sell you because they don't act as the pharmacies. The model that I think you're thinking about is very common in many countries, particularly Japan, where the clinics are the pharmacists, and they make most of their money. And the same is true to an extent in England. And so they'll come in and say, use my antipsychotic versus their antipsychotic, and we'll sell it to you at 40% below list as long as you use so much of it, that kind of thing. But the actual, the typical patient with schizophrenia, again, or even these other things, Obamacare type programs and state versions of that, those contractual levels are statewide. And so the doctors don't really care as long as it's on a formula. Now, that's the big issue for these pharma companies. Can they get on the formulary? Will they allow a new branded medication, which quite honestly the FDA never permits them to make claims they're better, safer, or whatever. All they can say is they work and they're different if they are a mechanism of action. So getting funded for a new drug, getting on the formulary is everything. And, what I've seen lately is very little price concessions from the pharma to get their drugs on the formulary. They'll settle for a very small, they're pricing them so that even if they're used rarely, they're making enough money on it to get a return on the investment they want. I've just run in, there's a side effect called tardive dyskinesia, which occurs in schizophrenics and bipolars who are on antipsychotics. And there are two new drugs that costing a couple of $1,000s a month. And a lot of community mental health centers won't cover them. Insurance companies won't cover it. I'm just dealing with this with a patient of mine, and the family is, struggling to find the money to pay for it themselves. Well,
I think coming up towards the hour, this has been tremendously helpful. I guess my last question is really around, as you think about, your experiences working at Northwestern, an academic medical center, at the community mental health clinic, as well as your experience consulting with private practices. What are the major unmet needs that each of these centers face as they treat and major depressive disorder, schizophrenia, and bipolar disease?
Well, within schizophrenia, actually, I have to give you a little background here. Most of my work right now is dealing with cognitive impairment. And it turns out that within schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and to some extent major depression, it's been known forever that these are unmet needs or poorly met needs. And we're beginning to understand how to address them. It's quite a struggle. The Vipassana